G'day fellow flight simmers and random YouTubers. Okay, today I'm going to be talking about how to actually plan a VFR flight. And the reason I'm doing that is because the other day I had a young guy call me up on BatSim and he fired a flight plan. He was going to go from Bendigo to Moorabbin. And I thought, oh yeah, young guy, seems keen. So anyhow, he gave me a flight plan. He basically planned direct. He wanted to go direct from Bendigo straight through to Moorabbin. And well, I basically had to sort of walk him through it. So that sort of encouraged me. I thought, I wonder how many people actually know how to file, or not file, but how actually construct a VFR flight plan. And it's actually it's quite a bit of thought involved in doing a VFR flight plan. Okay, so let's start, shall we? What's the first thing you need to do to plan a VFR flight? Well, you need VFR charts. And in Australia, we're lucky. We get them for free, or we can get them for free. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is go to Aeronautical Information Package. You click that and you scroll down and you say, yes, I agree, blah, blah, blah. You go to AIP charts and you've got these VTC and VNC. And VTC is visual terminal chart, and the VNC is a visual navigation chart. So if you click on the visual terminal chart, you'll get Melbourne and you'll come up and you have this wonderful map come up, and that is a VFR chart. Now, Navmap have recently come up with VFR charts, and I actually haven't bothered to look because in Australia, when I do my VFR flight planning, I use these things. I'm not sure if we've got these in Navmap. Anyhow, that's a VFR chart, and what that is called a terminal chart, a navigational chart, and the other one is if we go back, and we go a navigational chart, and you go down to Melbourne, and this comes up, and you got this one, and you can see this is at a bigger scale. So obviously if you're flying from, let's say, I'm not sure, let's see if I can, let's say for example, I don't know, Ararat, and you want to fly into Moorabbin, well obviously you need this chart here. So anyhow, you download both, depend on where you are, you download both of them, and so that's the first thing you need to do. So let's take the case, let's say now I've downloaded these charts, and you can see here I've got the Melbourne VTC and I've got the VNC. Okay, so let's start with the VNC, the visual navigation chart. Okay, so we want to go, and we can have a look up here. Bendigo is here, and you see the Bendigo and the CTAF frequency 119. So we want to go from Bendigo to Moorabbin, which is down here. You can see Moorabbin down there. And this young bloke, he filed in a straight line, direct. Well, what's wrong with that? Well, and he fired at 3,500. He got that right. He fired at 3,000. Okay, so you can see here, these are all the levels of the lower levels of the class Charlie and the class Alpha. If you're VFR flight, you don't have to worry about class Alpha because that's only for jets. But as a VFR flight, you do have to worry about class Charlie airspace because, as most of you know, you need a clearance to get into class Charlie airspace. And if you're at 3,500, you've got to realise that 20 DME, you can see here 20 DME, you're going to be entering class Charlie airspace. So at 20 DME, you've got to be very mindful of that. And not only that, you've got to get a clearance. Now, as you as a Cessna 172 or whatever, trying to get a clearance through Melbourne airspace, especially when you've got jets flying in and out, well, I wish you all the best. That's all I can say. So that would be the dumb way to do it. You can get it, the clearance but you suddenly now have to get a clearance, you have to be controlled by ATC, they have to separate you, even though you're a little bug smasher, the onus is on they have to separate you from a big jet or other aircraft. It gets very, very messy. So what can we do to alleviate all that? Well, like I said, there's a smart way of doing it, where actually you can file it. At the end of the day, you've got to remember you're a VFR flight. In other words, you say to the authorities, I can navigate using visual references to the ground. Well, what does that mean? Well, we'll come to that later, but I can look out for myself. In other words, I can navigate and I can separate myself. That's basically what VFR flying is all about. You're saying to the authorities, don't worry about me, I can do it all. I can separate myself and I can navigate. Right, so the first thing is, you're saying to them, I can navigate to visual references to the ground. And what we're saying, we're prominent, when we navigate to reference to the ground, we're looking for prominent landmarks or man-made objects. And you can see here, for example, you see chitin here, which is just got this arrow or diamond shape. What that signifies is that's a VFR reporting point. Now, reporting point is sort of a bit of a misnomer, really, because you don't have to report to anybody if you're at chitin. If you, let's say, for example, you're at 4,500 and you want to fly into Melbourne, then chitin is a reporting point. You say, Melbourne approach, November Foxtrot, India, Cessna 172, 4,500, or maintaining 4,500 chitin, received Papa or whatever. So now, if you file the flight plan, this air traffic controller has to look after you. But it's hard enough navigating, let alone talking to ATC. And you as a VFR flight, you really don't want to be talking to an air traffic controller, as funny as that may sound. So what you can do is you can play it the smart way. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to use prominent visual landmarks. In other words, let's say, for example, you take off a Bentico, and I'll run through the way that the thinking of it. You can see this great big highway, or freeway, it's not a highway, called a freeway in yellow. You can take off and you can keep this. If you follow this called a freeway and you follow it into chitin, that's your first point. And you're at 3,000, don't forget, and you're at 3,500. Now, can you continue? Now, if I continue following chitin at 3,500 and get to, say, this area here, now I've got to talk to ATC. Well, what's a better way of doing it? Well, the best way is if you're from chitin, if you're 3,500, you can stay under the Class Charlie lower level 4,500, and you can, as long as you get over this great dividing range, and 3,500 you'll get over it, you can track to this Pikes Creek Reservoir. So that would be a smart way, and you're flying under, and you don't have to talk to ATC. Now, what I'll do is, this is the navigational chart, and what we'll do, we'll go to the terminal chart, and we'll pick it up from here. So let's go to the terminal chart, and we'll pick it up. So, like I said, from chitin, we can follow the highway, and like I said, we're under 3,000. We're under 4,500. and we go to Pikes Creek, and we can go Pikes Creek, or what we can do, and actually this is even smarter, we can fly Mount Macedon and follow the freeway, and even though this is the Great Dividing Range, once you pass Mount Macedon, you can track for this Roslyn Reservoir. And what you do is, before you get to 20 DME, once you pass Mount Macedon, because you're not talking to ATC, you can descend down to 1,500. As long as you're clear the terrain and you can track to Roslyn Reservoir. Okay, so from Roslyn Reservoir, you're 1,500, and from there you can track to Melton, because this is obviously a town, you can track there to and from there you can go to Mount Cottrell or Rockbank, and from there you go to the Laverton, and don't forget you're under your 1,500, so you're under the Class Charlie lower level of 2,500. You can track from Mount Cottrell to Laverton, and once you get, this is the Laverton BOM, which are Bureau of Meteorology towers, and the town of Werribee, and from Werribee, well, the rest becomes easy, because see this dot here, this is the VFR route, and this is for aircraft arriving to Moorabbin from the west. So there's also another one here, and you've got the recommended VFR route here too. If you can fly to Kilmore, and you can go this way if you want, and you can come, you stay at 1,500, and you're below these steps here, or you can fly at 2,500, drop down to 1,500, go to Sugarloaf Reservoir, and then from there track inbound to Academy, and Academy is your VFR reporting point, and then when you're at Academy, call Moorabbin Tower, say, Moorabbin Tower, November Foxtrot, India, Cessna 172, maintaining 1,500, Academy received, India. So that's the two ways you can do your flight plan. And once again, there's a smart way and a much easier way. And this way, like I said, you don't have to. The only person you have to talk to is Moorabbin Tower. The rest of the time, you're busy looking out the window, looking for your next VFR points. Now, how do we put all this into practice? Well, there's a great tool, and by the way, this is a really old. It's the old. It's called the Melbourne Visual Flight Guide, and goes back to 2009. There we go. And this was back in the day when Moorabbin was what they call Gap Airport, but it still holds true to this day. And I'm not sure where you can download. I downloaded this ages ago, but so if you take the time to read this, because a lot of this, it's like I said, they're called Gap airports. They were called Gap. Now they're called Class Delta. Now let's say, for example, and it gives you actually what to do and say when you're arriving. So you can say, these are the CTAF procedures, but let's say, for example, and you've got the Moorabbin outbound radio calls, and you see here the Melbourne Gap arrival. Well, it's no longer a gap, but this is what you basically say. So you get the ATIS, and you make your inbound call on 118 or 123. It depends on where you're coming from, the east or west, but here it is. 118, this one normally use the traffic east of Moorabbin, and 123 is west of Moorabbin, okay? So you say that altitude arrival, and let's say we're coming in from Academy. In our case, we're going to go and we're going to we're going to call, this is Cerberus. This is that's a shipwreck. It's off the coast of, and normally you can either come in via Brighton or you can come in via Cerberus. Now let's say, for example, you call Moorabbin Tower from Brighton. If you go to this, it tells you all the just joining. Now this is what you're interested in, Moorabbin inbound from Brighton. So if, let's say, for example, runway 1 left and 1 right is active, so what you do from from Brighton, you take up a track of 110 degrees and once you hit Kingston, which is a very prominent golf course, you make a right turn and you line yourself up for one runway, and you'll get instructions from, they'll probably tell you the track final runway 1 right, or depends on what the air traffic controller says. But that's the tracking procedures. And like I said, even though this was published in 2009 for GAP, it's very, very, and that's what, here it is there. See, so at Brighton, you're at altitude 1,500, frequency 123, and that's what the Brighton, so if you're coming in from the west, that's what the Brighton foreshore looks like. Moorabbin Tower, November Foxtrot, India, Cessna 172, Brighton 1,500 received India, inbound. And that's exactly what you say, and that holds true to this day. Okay, so, and just to really, this is Little Navmap. And a Little Navmap is probably the go-to VFR planner. And you can see here and by the way, Little Navmap has got, you can get these MCDs, see these VFR reporting points. If you download the vanilla, you don't get this. But somebody has gone to all the trouble of, on this Flight Sim IO, TO, whatever it's called, of putting in all, and you can see I've already out VFR points encoded Little Navmap. So you download that, and then you bring them into Little Navmap as a CSV file, which I won't show you how to do, and you bring them in, and it brings up all these VFR points. So it makes, and there we go, you can see I've planned to go to Roslyn Reservoir, and then track direct to Melton, and it shows you there the magnetic heading you take up. Now, once you've done that, you can print the flight plan, or print the flight plan, not the map, but print the flight plan, and what you do is you get this. And what we're interested in, it tells you here, aircraft performance. I've got the Asobo, the WB Sim 172. It gives you an idea of, 94 nautical miles, and the flight will take 1 hour and 4 minutes, and you've got 13 knot headwinds on average, and blah, blah, blah. But this is what you really, and now, unfortunately, it doesn't recognise, you can amend these. Once you've printed this out, you amend these to reflect, like for example, waypoint 1, you can put down as, if we go back, is KTN, which is the town of Kyneton. Okay, so you can go back and just amend waypoint 1 KNT. So, and you take up a course of magnetic 159, and this is all the information. And then after that, this is really what you do. This is the course you fly, magnetic course. You don't fly the true. This is your true magnetic heading, and that's your magnetic. Always fly, obviously, your magnetic. So, and that's really what really looking for, and it gives you all sorts of Bendigo. You can see it gives you all sorts of information. So I guess that's about it, really. I don't think there's more. And you can export, oh, by the way, and you can file and you can export as a Microsoft flight plan. So if you want to be lazy like me, you can bring it into your Garmin 530 and, let the autopilot fly. But I normally like to fly. It depends. If I'm doing a video, I'll probably put on autopilot, but otherwise you normally fly your hand flight. And because Microsoft these days, a lot of these things are quite, well, especially obviously lakes or reservoirs, obviously Microsoft Flight Simulator shows them quite prominently. Actually, I'm not sure whether it shows you the Laverton Bureau of Meteorology towers. I might actually do this flight later on and check it out and actually put it on the web. But anyhow, that's basically how you go about doing a flight plan. And once again, the three things you really need to look for, and once again, I'll just go over them just to revise. You be mindful of your levels. Like I said, you don't want to be flying at 3,500 or 2,500 when you're trying to get across the Great Dividing Range, because I can tell you now, here's these high points. 2,247, 3,200. It's you're going to be you're going to be going smack bang into the dividing range. So that's why think about your levels. Okay, so I'm going to clear at 3,500. I'm going to clear the dividing range. But once I'm after gone past Mount Macedon, then, and also that's another thing. Then I can go. And I can descend down to 2,000 or 1,500. Don't forget, you can do what you like. You don't have to get ATC approval because you're not talking to ATC. So you can navigate and fly whatever level you want. And also that another thing of little Navmap is you've got this, and that gives you can see at 3,500, I'm cleared of terrain. But even more important, let's say, for example, you see the little blue arrow there, or blue circle as I'm moving. You can see that if I scroll out, and if we have a look, now you can see Mount Macedon, you want to get over this terrain. So you can see where that blue circle is. I definitely need to be 3,500. And as I go across the terrain, 3,000, and now at that point, I can now descend. I can now descend to 2,500. And once I've gone past the mountain range, I can descend right down to 1,500 and stay at 1,500 because I know at Cerberus, or Brighton, I should say, I need to call up at 1,500. And then I can track straight to Kingston Centre or Kingston, or you can track via Cerberus and then report at Cerberus. So it's up to you, but this is a valid flight plan. Okay, so I hope I've made that a little bit more clear, and in the future I hope to see a lot more people flying VFR and presenting presenting VFR flights that make sense. All right, well, that's about it for now. I think I've sort of carried on a bit too much. Until next time, I'll catch us all later. Cheers.